The conservative opposition to the Iran nuclear deal has reached the Senate and the streets of New York City. That latter portion of that is a protest that went on yesterday. We're going to return to that in just a little bit, but we're going to be starting off with John Kerry defending the proposed plan to some extremely harsh, foul-mouthed, in cases, critics of it, Republicans. We've got some video for you, and then we've got his attempt to defend the plan. We might do the same afterward. But first, here are some of the attacks against John Kerry and the proposed plan.
All I can say is after reviewing this, even in a cursory fashion, anyone who believes this is a good deal really joins the ranks of the most naive people on the face of the earth.
But there are qualities to this program that would not be unlike causing athletes to just mail in their own urine specimens in the mail and us believing that that's where it came from them.
With all due respect, you guys have been bamboozled, and the American people are going to pay for that.
From my perspective, Mr. Secretary, I'm sorry. Not unlike a hotel guest that leaves only with a hotel bathrobe on his back, I believe you've been fleeced.
We have gone from the position where we started, where we had Iran isolated, and they were viewed on the world stage as a pariah. If we don't go along with this, we're told, the other negotiators are going to go along with this, and the United States will be isolated on this issue, and we will be the pariah on the national stage. Now, just think about that.
In the process of being fleeced, what you've really done here is you have turned Iran from being a pariah to now Congress being a pariah.
We had Iran exactly where we wanted them, to now, if we don't go along with this, then we are going to be the isolated and pariah character on the national stage.
To be fully accurate, Congress is actually less popular than Iran. That's been true for quite a while. But anyway, yes, so that's
Dick Cheney is more popular than Congress.
The U.S. Congress.
Yes.
So that was Corker, you probably recognize, Risch, who we, of course, recognize, very significant figure there, looking to make a name for himself by attacking the plan, and Kerry. What do you think about their criticisms of the plan? Have we been bamboozled? Have we been fleeced?
I think it's obvious that we've been bamboozled. All you have to do is ask the security people who work for Israel. Oh, I'm sorry, they all say the opposite. So the only people...
The actual intelligence agencies,
yes,
you're saying.
The actual people who are in charge of the intelligence inside of Israel all recognize, and they're crazy. They want to kill as many Arabs as they can. Those guys.
They're not libs. They're not code pink.
No, they realize this is a great deal, right, or a good deal. And so that's what's crazy about this, right? So they go, well, even the opposition party in Israel's against this deal because they're all politicians.
They're politicians, yes.
Don't listen to the politicians. Listen to the security experts.
Yeah.
That's who I'll listen to.
And don't necessarily trust them either. They will lie, usually when politicians tell them to.
But there's nothing, right, there's nothing in them for them to lie in this way, right?
Exactly.
So there would be if they were, yes, so why would they lie this way? There's nothing in it for them, so that's why you could take their at face value for what they're saying. So it's funny, I mean, again, these people have no options. They have again, it's just like Obamacare. Well, what's your alternative? Bomb them. Let's go back there's no way to go back to the sanctions. The genie's out of the bottle. The other countries agree with us. So Barack Obama is such a horrible negotiator. He got bamboozled. But the other 5 countries, they're horrible too.
Yeah,
everybody. So Germany, right? Nobody can negotiate except fucking Corker. Are you kidding me?
Corker and Netanyahu, but not his intelligence apparatus.
Yes.
Yeah, and look, what I'm alluding to there is that's why I'm not surprised if people are a bit confused about Israel's stance on this. Netanyahu is against the plan. He's been against the plan before he knew anything about the plan. And I'm being generous there by implying that he now knows anything about the plan. He's still against it, but he will constantly say that, before this, that they're on the path to a bomb. They'll have a bomb soon, even though his intelligence agents were saying that they weren't. That's what the reports were coming out to him. And now they're saying the deal is good, but he's continuing to say that the deal isn't good. Now, look, he can do that. He's free to do that, but there's no reason why we should be manipulated into turning down a plan that could be very good for the United States, for Israel, and for Iran and the countries in the region, if that's what we have available to us. And they're not interested in the facts. They're not interested in the facts about what this will actually accomplish. We're going to be covering some of them over the course of this video, but Just a couple of the basic ones. Iran is going to be losing 97% of their enriched uranium. That seems significant to me. Something like a drop from 10,000 kilograms down to 300 kilograms. They're only going to be able to enrich uranium to 3.67%, which is 1/7 of what medical grade uranium is supposed to be enriched to, and far lower than the 90% you need to enrich it to for weapons grade uranium. Nor will they have the capacity to enrich it to that point, since they're going to be losing 3/4 of their centrifuges, again, as a result of this deal. Now, they would, Corker and Risch, whoever he is, they would have you believe that, no, this is a plan that will lead to them getting a bomb, and so we should turn it down, forgetting, of course, that estimates, even conservative estimates, say that if they desperately wanted a bomb under the current situation, they could have one in 2 to 3 years, or at the very least, 2 to 3 months. They would have the enriched uranium necessary to build one. So the idea that this plan is going to ensure that they get the bomb when they're going to lose so many of their centrifuges, so many of their sites. They only have 2 places where they can mine uranium, and those are going to be constantly monitored. It's a joke.
John, I'm with if everybody's afraid, everybody's afraid of Muslims getting the bomb, right? They already have it. It's Pakistan. George Bush let that happen. Okay, so they're already nuclear armed. Okay, and Pakistan's in bed with terrorists, and so this idea that somehow we're going to keep that genie's out of the bottle, right? So that big fear is gone. Again, the world is on board with this. The sanctions actually worked. We got a deal that's workable, that other countries say is good. UN's on board. If you're gonna, these are the people who don't. They think the Earth is 6,000 years old. Yeah. I don't listen to these guys. These are all the same people. Well, all the people who are for the Iraq invasion are against this deal. So I guess we shouldn't do it.
No, probably not. Yeah, and look. All else being equal, I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. But you know who else has nuclear weapons? Fucking Russia has nuclear weapons, and China has nuclear weapons. Some people believe that North Korea has nuclear weapons. A number of other countries have nuclear weapons. That can be scary, but there are bigger threats that we face and do nothing about. Climate change. Corker and Risch don't want us to do anything about climate change. Our diet is killing far more people in America every single year than nuclear weapons from Iran ever will.
So right now, Martin O'Malley's catching flack for saying that ISIS and this conflict was created because of global warming and climate change, which it was.
Yeah,
like we've talked about it on this show before. So there's a big drought, the biggest drought ever, Syria. The farmers don't have any water. Farmers come back into the city. They need help. There's no food to give. There's no help to give them. They start organizing. Then he shoots them. Yeah. Right? I'm blanking on the Syria's leader. Anyway, so
which group?
He started shooting them. Yeah. And that's what started so it started because of global warming and the biggest drought in Syria in the longest time. So that's what this is about. That's how it started.
Yeah.
Who's the president of Syria? Why am I blanking?
Oh, Assad. That's why I asked what group. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the rebel groups.
No, so Assad started, he overreacted. He started shooting the protesters. That's what started
this. And ironically, now ISIS is going to have some problems this year in Iraq because they are also having trouble with their crops. Their harvest is going to be much worse than previous years, partially because of the effect of climate change.
So that's actually something we could do. Yeah. We actually could if we tried to address climate change. And by the way, Syria went to the UN and said, hey, we got a drought, can you help us? And they said, pound sand. No, we're not going to help you. But guess what? If there's a revolution, if there's a civil war, we'll fucking bomb you. We'll help. That's exactly what
If only you could fit food in those bomb casings.
If only you could put water balloons inside of the bomb so when it blew up, it would irrigate.
Exactly. That would be great. At the same time that the Senate is debating the Iran deal, a number of Americans, thousands at the very least, congregated in the streets of New York City to protest the deal, which I am going to go out on a limb and say many of them do not understand, and they've been lied to by their political leaders that they trust about what it would actually entail. We've got some photos of the actual protests going on. As always, who knows how many people were there? The people organizing it say 10,000. I believe unbiased sources say at the very least thousands. But look, a lot of people were there. Notable politicians were there as well. We've got George Pataki saying, we're here as Americans to speak with one voice to say stop Iran now, reject this deal. This is a god-awful deal. This must be rejected. Congress must do its job and stand up for the American people, stand up for our safety, and say no to this Iranian deal. We do know a recent survey of the 79% of Americans who've heard about the deal, which actually I'm impressed that almost 80% of Americans have heard about it.
That's amazing.
48% disapprove. So I assume probably some amount aren't sure, a smaller amount are in favor of it. And so some Americans can be sort of rallied, even through misinformation, to be against this. I don't think that it's necessarily an issue. Foreign policy rarely is that people are going to organize around, especially when it comes to the presidential race. But it's like you were saying with Obamacare. It's that they're not presenting any alternative, not any alternative that they're willing to come out and be honest about. We understand what their alternative is. Either just blindly continue with the sanctions that don't seem to be stopping them. They are able to enrich uranium, at least to some extent, under the current system. Or, and they won't say this, either we bomb them or Israel bombs them and we provide cover for them to do that. And the idea that Iran, which has a military, this is not a country that can't defend itself to some extent, that they wouldn't respond in some way, that there wouldn't certainly be more deaths as a result of either Israel or the United States either conducting bombing raids or, God forbid, an actual invasion of Iran, that wouldn't be worse for Iran, Israel, and the United States than the deal we have, imperfect as it might be. It's ludicrous. It's impossible to imagine. But we can't even have a debate about it because Republicans refuse to even be honest about where they stand on this issue. And so that's annoying. And look, behind all of this, we also have, in the past couple of days, the revelation that the International Atomic Energy Association...
The IAEA.
Exactly. I'm not even going to try to say that as one phrase. That they have some side deals with Iran, which I don't find so shocking. The idea that only America and Iran were going to be involved in these inherently international negotiations that involve sanctions with the entire world imparting them on Iran, I don't find that to be so surprising. But already, and you saw it to some extent in the video we were showing you before, Republicans are trying to make the case that because we don't know exactly what's in these side deals, that everything they imagine that could possibly go wrong is in it, that Iran is not going to have any inspections, or various specific sites won't be inspected, or that the samples of the uranium that they're going to have to send in are going to be sort of manipulated in some way. Now, we don't actually have that information, but
I heard speculation that some of the side deals was that if Iran agreed to any time, anywhere, the IAEA would give them a first-round draft choice.
That would be, they need it too. Mm-hmm. Their defense, it's been lacking in
no kidding.
Recent
Talk
years.
About holes.
Exactly. Now, the National Security Advisor Rice says that the documents between Iran and the IAEA are not public yet, but that the administration has been informed of their contents and will share details with members of Congress in a classified briefing on Capitol Hill. She said specifically, we're satisfied with them, and we will share the contents of those briefings in full in a classified session with the Congress. So there's nothing in that regard that we know that they won't know. Now, one thing that is believed to be in the side deal is the idea that some of the reporting that Iran is going to need to do in regards to its previous work on weaponization of nuclear weapons, any work they had done in the past, they're going to have to give a full accounting of that. And in this side deal, the belief is that they're going to have a buffer until almost the end of this year to do that. Some of the Republicans are worried that would be after sanctions would have already been taken away. It seems like it would be very close. At most, it would be weeks after the sanctions had been taken away. And the idea that we couldn't simply bring back the sanctions as a result of that with the snapback provisions that we know are in the deal. Again, that's another thing that they refuse to actually say when criticizing it. Look, I would prefer if none of this was secret, if it was all conducted out in the open. But my initial inclination is to say that Republicans don't seem to understand how diplomacy works if they believe that Iran was just going to 100% capitulate and we're going to get everything we want. But unfortunately, that's the truth. They don't actually know how diplomacy works, and they're uninterested in learning about it.
You're telling me Tom Cotton doesn't have a stranglehold on diplomacy?
No, not so much.
No, Johnny, everything you're saying is correct. And again, it's a failure of the U.S. media, right? So there used to be a guy named Walter Cronkite that everybody looked to. And if he said this was a good deal, it was a good deal. And he was an honest broker, right? Well, there isn't that guy anymore. Yeah. There's nobody, we're left with Chuck Todds of this world, right? This is what we're left with. And George Snuffleupagus. And CBS News is really, it's a sliver away from Fox News as far as their reporting goes. I was the vice president of Fox is now in charge of CBS. So the whole point of this is that this is the deal you're supposed to get. This is a real deal. All the other countries agree with it. The security people inside of Israel agree with it. So that should be the end of it. But of course it's not, because everybody likes to cover the drama and the soap opera that is in Congress.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and international, the actual people who'd be doing the inspections when the details of the plan initially came out said that they were shocked at how much America got out of this deal.
Yes!
And so, look, the last thing that I want to say is you're going to leave this, and you're going to see on your Facebook wall and in the comments section, and maybe even in person, you're going to see some people parroting the misinformation about this deal that they've willingly accepted, either from certain lobbies that I won't name and other politicians that, like Rish, soon I won't be able to name because I'm going to forget who he is as soon as this show is done. Here is a great summary of exactly what this accomplishes in its simplest form from Vox. Inspectors will be monitoring the only 2 mines where Iran can get uranium ore, the fuel for a bomb, and the mills where it's processed. They will keep tabs on every single centrifuge in the country, as well as the centrifuge factories, the machines that could be used to make a centrifuge, even on imports of technology that could be used to build a machine that could be used to build a centrifuge. We will never have a deal that surpasses this one. And simply continuing on with the current situation is not It's not good for Iran, it's not good for Israel, it's not good for America, and it could, if you are worried about Iran having a nuclear weapon, the current situation is Iran's best bet to ever have one.
So on the line of how much we know and how it works, the basis for whether or not people agree or disagree with it that don't know exactly what's in it has to be based on you thinking, as these 2 senators, Corker and Risch, I'm glad I got his name, were contending that you're either bamboozled, you've been fleeced, or you don't care about America and you want us all to die. Yeah. You don't care about Israel, they're going to die. You don't care about the Middle East, they're all going to die. So it's got to be one of those 2 scenarios that are pitched.
Which is it for you?
Yeah. Oh, well, Obama, he's not from here, so he must want everyone to die. And so that's why even when Tom Cotton first came out and was talking against it, and the question was never asked, so do you think the president and John Kerry and the entire coalition that wouldn't negotiate these deals are lying to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
They want to ask that. So are they lying? Are they in on this? Are they helping develop the bomb? Are they helping them out in doing everything? Like, where's your logic? And that question won't get asked because that would break down to them having to have a real explanation of how this works to destroy us. There's a big conspiracy. We have to be the victims, the strongest in the world victims, in every scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, and the closest they'll come is they'll say that he's just trying to ram through this in the last days of his presidency because of his legacy. If it ended with America or Israel being bombed by a nuclear weapon, what kind of legacy would that be? They don't actually think through what they're saying. And I like the way that you said that they won't actually come out and say specifically who is willing to let Americans die. And that, I think, the Republican Party right now, or the conservative movement, is basically split into half people in the media who are willing to say that Obama wants to specifically kill every American, and the other half of the politicians who will imply it very heavily but never actually say the words.
So
it's a good balance that they've got there.
They say a peace treaty with a backward theocratic regime is pointless, but I say, fuck it, let's invade Texas anyway. Am I right?
100%. These are the same people who believe that Texas is being invaded literally right now.